I want to welcome you all to Mastering AI and Digital Communications for Business. We are very, very happy to have Dr. Allana Dagraca back with us. She's presented for SCORE Boston before, and you're in for a fantastic presentation with a lot of energy and a lot of great information. As we start, I'd like to explain to you a little bit about SCORE in case you are not familiar. Our goals as a nonprofit are to share information with the small business community so that you can be successful. And we do that in a couple different ways. One is through the information on our website, score.org. Lots of great information, templates you can download, videos you can watch, articles you can read, lots of great information. Just dig around in there and you're sure to find answers to questions you may have. The other way we share information is through our webinars and workshops. Most are online, do have a few in person as well. We advertise those through our newsletter, through social media, and through our website. So 3 places that you can find the information. The most important way that SCORE shares their information is through mentoring. And our mentors are volunteers, and they are giving of their time to share their experiences. They come to us with many different skill sets and have done different types of businesses. And they want to work with the small business community from the beginning to the end. So from those that are trying to decide if small business is right for them, to those that are in that planning phase, and those that are in a business already. Folks come and ask for help in any business topic that you can imagine, from marketing to growth to business plan. I mean, you name the topic, we've got a mentor either in our chapter, our district, or at the national level that we can match you to. A beginning session will be about 40 minutes. They want to know about you. They want to know about what your goals and challenges are. And they're going to work with you to come up with a plan to reach your goals. And when you're working with one mentor, you're working with the group. They often will bring in other co-mentors to assist. They will go and ask questions of mentors to make sure that you're getting all the information that you need to be successful. So getting a mentor is very easy. Score.org. There's a blue box. Put in your zip code, and that will match you to the chapter that's nearest you. We'll then ask a couple quick questions, and that information will be used to match you to the most appropriate mentor for your situation. So format today, we are going to use Q&A for questions to the presenter. I promise you there will be a lot of interaction through chat. So if you have a very specific question, let's put it in Q&A so it doesn't get lost. And we will do our best to get to as many questions as possible. We may or may not have time for all of them, but we will do what we can. We are recording, and that recording will be posted in the next 24 to 48 hours at score.org/Boston. And you can see from my little graphic there, blue bar, local workshops, and under that tab, you will find previously recorded webinar. And like I said, it'll be posted within the next 24 to 48 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and pull down my share and let Dr. Allana Dagraca introduce herself. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. So first of all, I want everyone to know that I absolutely love a lot of engagement. So thank you, Teresa, and SCORE actually for having this. If you're excited about this workshop, I definitely want you to put down the word or the letters AI in the chat box, because I am so excited about today. I just know that everyone has so many thoughts and questions about today that I literally was like, oh my gosh, I'm super excited. I also want to know, before we get going, how many bosses do I have in this awesome webinar space? How many bosses? What do you do? Don't be shy. I just want to know in one sentence, what kind of boss are you? Are you in retail? Are you in service? What is the service industry that you're in? And before we get going, I just want you to know that, I know so many people have so many thoughts about AI. There are so many angles of how to do this presentation. So I'm going to first focus our conversation to let you know that this particular presentation will deal with primarily digital communication, right? So we can tap on this in different levels, but I really want you to peer in from the communication aspect. And again, we could have taken so many ways to do this webinar. I'm seeing transportation, plastic free, self-employed coach and trainer, entertainment. This is awesome, Stephanie. Pet care. I love it. We've got some amazing entrepreneurs in the room. And I want you to know that this is going to be very informative. It will go by quick. Okay. So I want you to take notes. Who's ready? I want you to put ready with exclamation points. Now, normally I'm dancing around, but we've got so much to cover today that I will not give you that expose dance premise. All of you are saying I'm ready to go. So this is super exciting. I tell you, the best way that you can get information out of this, number one, yes. Can we please give a round of applause to SCORE for all that they do? I mean, as a business owner, I love SCORE and I love what they're up to as well. So today, what I will tell you is make sure at the very end that you look at the way to subscribe so you can get the additional, I will have additional notes with this presentation. And we're also talking about partially doing a part 2, just in case we don't get to cover everything. But let us begin. I'm so excited to be here. So welcome to this experience. So today the topic is mastering AI and digital communication for business. And I'm super excited to be here because I know that many of you have many thoughts about this. Like when you think about this topic, what for you comes up? Can you give me one sentence of what you think about when you think about AI? I just want to know, does it scare you? Does it excite you? Like, what are the thoughts that you have about it? Because this is going to guide our conversation. When you think about who you are as a business owner, you definitely want to start asking yourself, how do I actually integrate this terminology, AI, into my communication strategy? So we're going to talk a little bit about it. We're going to go as far as we can today, and definitely don't be shy, ask your questions. I'll be talking, and you may actually put highlighted like aha moments in the chat, or you can actually wait until we have a Q&A near the end. I love it. Deb says, fear that it will change SEO. I think how AI can help me communicate more or research my business better. Paula Cohen says, assist me with framing the message. Okay, so you guys are ready to go. Let's tap in. So I'm super happy to be here. As you guys know, I started my company, Turning on the Lights Global Institute, all the way back in 2016 and went live on Instagram. And it's a whole story from there, but I kickstarted my business on social media. I have a background in digital storytelling and also teach part-time at Northeastern University, taught at Bentley University, Lesley University, you name it. I've taught a numerous amount of courses on digital systems and technology, communication strategy, and you name it. Okay, so let's go on. Some of the things that my actual participants tell me, oh my gosh, after working with Dr. Allana, I closed my first 5K. I realized I don't have to do this alone. Dr. Allana will not let you sit by passively. And I raised my prices and now have a program worth $10,000. So I have a question. How many of you are at a place where you need to increase revenue? Now, let's not be shy, because if you were with me in a room by yourself, I'd be asking you, and a lot of times entrepreneurs are scared to actually put a number or put a valuation at what they're doing. But let me just ask you this question. How many years did it take for you to become the specialist, the expert, or the business owner, or the boss that you are today? Now, these questions are very important because it all starts with the blueprint. It all starts with your story and the value you put on your brand and what it is that you're bringing or contributing to the world and to the marketplace. So I'm seeing 15 years, 10 years. It took me 2 years. Awesome. So many of you saying, oh my goodness, I need to increase revenue. So today, when we go into our presentation, you will see that I have formulated a lot of our presentation around one case study. Now, mind you, the case study will be a service-based business, but just know that this also relates to retail and other industries. I've only done that so that we can cover a good range of how this person will actually kickstart and launch his business or expand his practice. All right, let me scroll down. My digital journey. So as I expressed earlier, I started out as a professor. And what got me into entrepreneurship, I never planned on being an entrepreneur, but at one of the schools that I loved and liked, They were just having budget cuts. And so they decided to let me go. And at that time, I had been teaching my students everything around digital storytelling, but I said, oh, I need to get out here on these digital streets and actually begin to tell my own digital story and launch my consulting business. And so I went live. And in 2019, from those live experiences, I launched my coaching business. And in 2021, became a six-figure earner with more than 12,000 subscribers across all social media platforms, following what we were up to, and then formed a tribe called the International Women Build Confidence Conference. So call that boss moves, but I really was ready to go. And I will say that when you're on, I call them social media streets, when you're on social media streets and you're building that traction and you're building, engagement, it's really important to know the pendulum of where you're actually going. And so just keep it in mind, the question I asked you at the beginning, how long did it take for you to become the boss that you are? Because once you have that in mind, everything else will start to compound. Now, I will first start by telling you what AI isn't. AI is not a tool that you will use because you want to just find solutions and then use those solutions without actually knowing that information yourself. So there have been some ethical issues with AI that people are still grappling with. How I like to see it from the premise is AI is just a supportive tool that I can use. So I take my actual research, or I take my actual data, or I take my actual information, and I use the AI tools as a bridge or a conduit to build off of what I already know. How many of you are still with me? So there are issues that people are having because we have to make sure that we understand why we're using it, but it definitely is not a substitution for what you should already know, if that makes sense. So I want to kind of start that off by saying that. But before I started my business, I had to get over perfectionism, paralysis analysis, fear of success. Here's another one, asking for the sale. And we'll get into that, but you can't just post all day anymore and just think you're going to convert. It's no longer the game of just getting on social media and going live, or even having an Instagram page where you have gazillion followers. You can have an Instagram page with 400,000 followers and no revenue. Believe you me, I have coached a number of people, and just know that you're looking for, somebody put in the chat box, quality, not necessarily quantity. You want to have quality leads coming to you. You want to have quality prospects asking you the questions, not necessarily where you're buying bots because you want to look the part. No, you want to think about, how can I have a digital story that I am creating where I am leveraging the value of what I can offer, and I am attracting my best potential client. So for me, I had to get over all of the fears. Can I ask you, can any of you relate to that? Like, what are your thoughts when you think about showing up online? Does it scare you? Is it working for you? Are you in a place of stagnation? I would love to hear from you. Thank you, Stephanie. That was honest. She said, it absolutely scares me. You're not alone, because when I first started out, imagine a professor going live on Instagram. What do you think my fears were? First of all, I had taught for many, many years. I was definitely not although it sounds like I'm an extrovert, I'm what you call an extroverted introvert. So I'd rather be listening to jazz, writing poetry, and sitting on my couch, but that does not close sales. And as my hubster says, hope doesn't pay the bills. So I had to get out of hope and wishful thinking. I had to get out of just being pumped up all day. I really had to have a true strategy. Rodolfo says it's scary not getting reactions to the post. Ooh, Rodolfo, that is a great comment. And I want to let you know something. I want to ask you first, how many times do you think it takes for a prospect, if you have a high value item, to make a purchase? How many times? Or even when you are online, how many times do you find yourself going back before you close? If you don't know the brand at all, it's not something familiar to you, how many times? Yolanda says 3. Anybody else? 12. Thank you, Janine. Okay. I show up on social. I love to add value, but harder to make the ask for getting hired as trainer. Let me tell you something, at least 18 times. If they have never seen you at all, they are going just like Dorothy down a yellow brick road, and they're going to tap into you in different mechanisms 18 times. They're going to tap on your LinkedIn. They're going to tap on your Instagram if you have one, and they're going to just start tapping around to see who is this person, at least 18 times if we're talking about high-end products. So let me just keep going. Okay, so today we're going to talk about understanding AI and digital communication, leveraging AI for marketing success, future trends and practical tips, but I also would say the last one is just applied action. All right, and so let's talk about AI and digital communication. First of all, the evolution of artificial intelligence has completely transformed how we will continue to communicate. AI has revolutionized digital communication, allowing for personalized interactions and enhancing customer experiences. It will allow the digital landscape to be more streamlined by allowing individuals and companies to have more valuable insights and driving unprecedented success. Lastly, applied means it will explore the future trends of AI in digital communication, including the potential for further personalization and enhanced customer interactions. All that really means is that because of what AI is bringing to us, we now have more of a streamlined way to create communication around customer onboarding, how we engage with a new client, right? So if you've ever gone, an example of that would be if you've ever gone to a website because you had a problem with, maybe it was a technical issue you had, and you went and a chat bot, came up and started asking you, okay, how can I help you today? And there are all of these pre-questions that are asked to you so that you can, easily get to the answer that you're looking for. So that would be an example of how AI is transforming things. But the other piece that a lot of people don't think about, somebody put the word CRM in the chat box. Now, today we're not going to talk about funnels, and I could spend a lot of time talking about that. But I will tell you that you at this stage should understand that your website is no longer just a static site. In the early 2000s, mid 2000s, having a static site was all you needed to create, good awareness. Nowadays, you have to have a triad approach. And what a triad approach means is that there are multiple layers of how people are finding you, right? So what I do as a business owner every Sunday, I look at my dashboard, and that dashboard is automated based upon how many people visited my site, how many bookings did I create, how many of those bookings led to actual second and third appointments, and how many individuals did I close. And I can look at that data and I can make informed decisions. Did you know that beyond your landing page, you can learn a lot about your actual customer if you were able to analyze that data? If you knew, for example, that on your website, people were spending more time, not on the landing page, but on your events page, that's an opportunity. So you have to understand that AI is not necessarily just where people are using Chat GPT and putting in qualifying prompts. It's also a tool that works on the back end. So if you have a website, if you even if you look at Instagram or your Facebook data, you should be able to populate, how are people consuming my information? A lot of times people or business owners only will look at the front end to say, okay, I have a post and only 10 people click like on it. But did you know there are a lot of posts that people may not click on, and they also may be consuming that by impression, but you may not know that. And so I always tell my clients, don't get stuck on the fact that you posted something and you only saw 7 people click like, because if your value of what you're having on social media is great, you might just need that one or second person that's looking at what you're doing to book an appointment with you to eventually close with them. So it's no longer about how many likes you have. The algorithms have completely shifted, and that's something I really want you to think about. Now, more than ever before, you are going to have to figure out what is going to be my authentic, unique valuation proposition that I can, my UVP that I can actually showcase when I'm on these digital streets, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on my website, wherever I intend to go. So AI is a simulation of the human experience in machines programmed to think and learn. And like I said before, you have tools like the chatbots that we see, natural language processing to respond to potential customers. It could also be used in-house to deal with inner issues that the company might be dealing with, right? And so we're going to use this case study of this man I've called Tony Stevenson. 42 years old. He's a growth financial coach. Okay. So again, we're focusing around this one case study, but again, this is very useful for any industry. So let's just say that this man wants to figure out, okay, I've been in I've been in the finance industry for years. I'm ready to kickstart and leverage my revenue. So I want to launch out. So he makes that decision and he says, I have 6 months to launch a new financial freedom teaching series. But can we just talk about the costs that entrepreneurs pay in order to operate their business, especially when they're launching out? Do you remember how many investments you made to get things going, to start that website, to get the legal and get the accounting together? So let's say on month one, he spends about $3,000 to get a copy editor, because even when I think about starting my business, you had to have these individuals to make sure that the language that you used was correct. You had to also make sure that, you had every phase of your funnel together. So that is what is going to be the opt-in that people have to get to know you, what's going to allow them to give you the acorn or the email, right? And so he spends $3,000. Then in month two, he gets an intern, a $500 social media content manager. And then in month three, he says, well, if I get these first two things going, hopefully I'll be able to rent out a hotel and, I'll spend about $4,000. And hopefully I cross my fingers that 20 people will attend. So he's hoping, after investing all of that in his business, that out of all of that, 20 people will attend and maybe he will close the deal. But some challenges happen because a new entrepreneur often spends a lot of time in the business. How many of you can relate? Look at all the things an entrepreneur has to do today when they are launching out. We're talking about website design, social media management, copy editor, a brand strategist, social media campaign, communication about the brand, state and federal tax obligations, insurance obligations, legal fees, CRM. How many of you are saying, oh my gosh, this is me, this is a lot? Slide design, internal, external communication, having, getting all of your ducks in a row, as we say. So, here he is doing all of these things. How do you feel? How do you think that Tony feels at this time? Anybody? What is he feeling at this time? Thank you. Overwhelmed. Everybody agrees. Overwhelmed and confused. He's feeling stressed. He's feeling burnt out. Come on, keep it going. Aside from feeling overwhelmed, what about financially? Because this is really important to think about. When we think about the fact that millions of people start businesses and many of them fail before the first 5 years, there's a lot of reason in with that, right? If we just look at this alone, a company trying to get going, getting all their ducks in a row, yes, burning through the cash. Thank you, Martha. Jan says drained mentally. Yep. It's tough to decide exactly where to spend the money. Oh, you guys are good. Let's keep going and then I'll move forward. But absolutely. And if you've ever felt this level of overwhelm, it's quite normal because you cannot launch something without allowing people to fully understand and get the story of your brand, of your business, and also your solution, your ability to help them solve their problem. So, of course, he's feeling like, oh my goodness, I spent all this money. Here I am. I did everything. I put all my ducks in a row. And oh my goodness, imagine if he did do the hotel event and nobody signed up. Can you imagine taking all of your savings and trying to figure it all out and then saying, oh my goodness, I just don't know if this works? And this case study is very realistic for a lot of my clients. They say, I did all the things, people are not clicking, people are not converting. Why is that? And I just want you to know that now, because of AI, we're going to see how you can save both budget and you can also save time. Because I've been in business now for 7 years, I do remember and can see the difference between streamlining that time with the use of AI and how I would have spent it before. So Adiri says financially stressed and wondering if he can ever meet his goals. Absolutely. So let's move on. So he decides to integrate artificial intelligence and he decides to use ChatGPT. He decides he's going to use it to strengthen his research. And he decides that he is going to use ChatGPT and other tools to create and launch a financial literacy program. Okay. So leveraging AI for marketing success. So I'm going to stop this for 1 second because all of this is really crucial. So here's the thing. When you decide to use AI, right, you have to have your tools. You have to already have your data in order for it to really leverage where you want it to go. So I can use myself as an example, right? So turning on the Lights Global Institute, yes, we started on Instagram. And as we began to grow, we created our coaching programs, etc. But I want to ask you this question because before AI, how many hours do you think it would actually take me to launch a given campaign? I would love for you to tell me that. How many hours do you think it would take for me to launch an actual campaign? Any guesses? 3 months, Stephanie said. Okay, keep going. 20 hours. So initially, when I was in the early phases of the business, I definitely would say that in every campaign, there's a pre and post. And so definitely for the planning purpose alone, that would take about 60 days. So that would take me about 2 months to truly plan a campaign from beginning to end. So when you're getting ready to launch a product or relaunch a product or expand or add more value to what you got going on, you definitely need to sit down and think about what that campaign looks like. But let's just talk about it. You need to know your mission and your vision. You need to understand your target and who you're trying to appeal to. You need to understand what's going on in the industry right now, in your chosen industry. A lot of times, entrepreneurs tend to spend a lot of time being a consumer instead of being an encoder, right? In communication, an encoder is someone who creates content for someone to consume. And the decoder is the audience or the person reviewing the information. A lot of times, entrepreneurs spend a lot of times looking at the gurus, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you just took 20% of that time that you spend looking at people you admire and actually encoding new content based upon your insight into the industry, that can be very exciting, right? So I want to ask you this question. How many of you have at least one or two social media streams, and where do you go? Where do you find your people? Is it LinkedIn? Is it on Facebook? How do you get your people? Because this is an important question. So essentially, as Tolji was building, we would take about 60 days to create the pre-beta launch to make sure it was in fact what our target wanted. And then we would actually launch a given campaign. And so that campaign could be anywhere between 7 to 9 weeks. That campaign may lead to an event. It may lead to a book launch. It may lead to individuals signing up to our different coaching programs. So just know that you have to, at the base, understand all those preliminary things I just talked about. Once you have those preliminary details about who you are, who the target is, what you want to focus on, where your campaign is going, and you have those key things, then the tools begin to really work for you. So I just remember spending hours and hours in the early days, putting all of this information together, hiring a team, getting external freelancers to also support the initiatives. Alyssa says, I have an account on Facebook and IG, but my best tool is my newsletter by far. That's awesome. So when you think about it, just understand that you have to understand what angle you want to use as you build your digital communication strategy. Now, if you're an introvert, somebody put in the chat box if you are an introvert. If you're an introvert, let me know. If you're an introvert, you want to begin to use AI tools that really tell your message. They can tell your message in visuals. You can tell your message in audio messages. You can also create social campaigns that don't even show your face, but show abstract images relative to the solutions that you say you have. So yes, if you're an introvert, you don't have to be on video all day long. You don't have to create reels all day. You just have to understand. So, and I can't remember the person's name, but she said her genius is in her newsletter. So then it can be that you create an AI strategy so that you go beyond the newsletter, but it's almost like, well, how can I take this newsletter and create a thematic campaign that eventually allows me to close more people that follow my newsletter journey, right? If you're in retail, you still are telling a story. I'll never forget, there was a woman that had a t-shirt business, and she came to one of the SCORE workshops I was leading, and she said, oh, I create these t-shirts and they used to sell well during birthday parties and special events, but these parties are down now with COVID, etc. So what should I do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a wealth of opportunities. I mean, there are so many things you can do with t-shirts. You've got to think about what we call niches and how these niche forms of communication can also expand your reach. So you have different angles of how you can attract people. But before you even sit down to chat GPT and everything else, you got to understand at the base, what is it, or what is the outcome I want to have this time next year? If you say that you want to have a revenue goal this time next year, then you have to look at that revenue goal and work backwards. So of course you come to SCORE and you strengthen your business plan. Of course you come to SCORE and you work on your one-page business plan. You work on your marketing strategy. But then you start to put legs to that by asking yourself very intentional questions. Okay, I'm an introvert. I don't want to do anything with video. So my strategy for the next 6 months is going to be, how can I use blogs and vlogs where I'm not using my face, but still sharing the message? And so you want to think about that as you move forward. And one of the things that I decided to do was, I didn't really care about followers. I really decided to form a hashtag, and I decided I would form a community around the hashtag. Now, many of you know or use hashtags at this point, but a lot of you can design and create a hashtag or an acronym that's relative to one core value in your business. Did you know that if you create a unique hashtag, right? So you can create that unique hashtag and populate it with other hashtags that are useful, that people use. People will start to align your brand with that unique hashtag. So when we created our unique hashtag at that time, which was UPML, it stood for Upgrade My Life, and we created that, hundreds and hundreds of women started to just use hashtag UPML. And so if you were to put in UPML inside of Instagram, you would see a lot of our photos popping up, as well as if you were to put hashtag IWBCC, you would see a lot of things popping up. So what you can do with your own brand is say, how can I make one of the core values something that people can form community around? Because once you have that, then putting structure and strategy and using AI tools just makes it that much more easier. So let me go back to my slide. How many of you are still with me? Y'all still taking notes? Let's see where we're at. I'm pausing here. Yes, thank you. Yolanda says she's still here. Awesome. I also see a couple of you guys that I know. Okay, thank you. All right, awesome. So AI plus engagement equals conversion. AI plus engagement equals conversion. So what do I mean by that? Now we're seeing AI in all the tools. We're seeing it on platforms that people use to create short courses. We're seeing it in product development. You're seeing it on Facebook. You're seeing it on Instagram, all of these things. I don't want you to be overwhelmed anymore. So somebody please put remove the overwhelm. You have to understand, again, like I said before, what story are you telling? Can you imagine Dorothy going down the yellow brick road? She would go down the yellow brick road, and then she stops to see the Tin Man, and then she meets the lion, but she's going down a road to eventually meet Oz, and she meets people along the way. That's exactly what's happening when people come to find you. When they sit down, and there are millions of people looking for solutions every single day, they just haven't found you yet. But when they come to look for those solutions, they're going to tap onto your Instagram, they're going to tap onto your Facebook feed or LinkedIn, and then they're going to try to figure out if you understand what problems they have, right? And so AI is a tool that can help you build up some of your engagement strategy, which will eventually lead to your conversion. So let's think about it. How can he create our case study? How can he launch a campaign, save $20,000 and close $10,000 in his first launch? So let's just say that his goal is to increase sales and enrollments in 6 months. He wants to launch a financial coaching program. He wants to utilize AI to design and execute a 5-week LinkedIn social media campaign. Now, I will also say this. When you're creating a campaign or you're taking your data and putting it into AI and all the different tools that I'll talk about in a second, you want to make sure that you do not overwhelm yourself by trying to be on too many platforms, because each of the platforms have, a different way of getting to the core audience. So obviously on LinkedIn, this man is looking to appeal to people with corporate backgrounds and people that can afford his services. So you want to make sure that you're attracting individuals that can actually afford what you have to offer. You don't want to give a buffet, you want to give a sample. So what he decided to do was, okay, I want to use some of these AI tools. Now, there's so many AI tools. These are just some of them. Obviously, ChatGPT, Gamma, Teachable. It's a tool that you can create online courses with. Kajabi is another one. Flick is another one. There's one called Bumblebee where you can use that to plan out your posts. Canva, which most people know about, but also now has an AI tool within it to suggest images for different types of events you might be creating marketing material for. Hootsuite is also very good. But did you also know that you can simply use tools of data like the back end of your Instagram dashboard to see, well, how are your engagements going if you're using that? Same thing with LinkedIn. You have to start looking at things not just from the first post, but you got to look at the long game. Somebody put the long game, right? So a person looking at what you're posting, they're not going to usually take action immediately, right? They first want to see if they can trust you. So what I mean by that is, let's just say you're getting ready to launch something new and you say, hey guys, every Tuesday come in for this tip of the day, Tuesday tips or whatever. And they're going to look to see if you follow up on what you're saying. And if you skip 2 Tuesdays and then you come back, and they're going to say, oh, this person's really not that committed. So you want to pick something that you can do that you can be consistent with. And again, these AI tools are just tools, right? They're only useful if you actually make solid use of them. So our case study gentleman decides to use these tools, and okay, he's going to use Teachable to create his course. He's going to use Canva to create the imagery around what he's doing. But he's like, you know what? I need to come up with a stronger strategy. Like, I don't even know what to post every day. Let me ask you guys this question. How many of you have a strategy, or do you do what I call CFM, CMF, cross my fingers? A lot of people do CMF posts, like they cross their fingers and they hope something happens. And I used to be that way when I first started, CMF, right? How many of you CMF, or how many of you have been doing the most, right? You've been posting, going every day, liking however many, and hope people will like it back. Like, what are all the things you're doing? Alyssa, I have a lot of content to use. I never run out. That's great. Danielle says I'm an organic poster on certain topics. I love it. Tiffany Ross says she's CMF. She's laughing. Okay, let's see what he does. So when we're thinking about AI, we can use those tools. Like you can use ChatGPT. There's so many, right? It's not, ChatGPT is just one that many people know about, but you can literally put in, the different types of tools you need, and boom, there will be a ton of AI tools that you can use. So let's just say in this case, he decides that he's going to use ChatGPT. And so first of all, when you're using AI, you want to tell artificial intelligence exactly what you want it to do. Now, somebody write down in the chat box, Bloom's taxonomy. Now, Bloom's taxonomy is a series of activated words that as educators, we would use when we were creating curriculum. That's a great place to find some good prompt words, just to kind of get your mindset going with regards to what you're actually looking for. But you want to tell AI exactly what to do. You want to provide it with the details. You want to clarify the tone and style. Did you know that you can't just say, well, write me a description for this particular course? You want to say, write a description for a course around this particular topic for this particular group of people who are in the range of 35 and 65 who are trying to do X, Y, and Z, and tell me how I should appeal to this given audience. If you were to write something like that, your response is going to be something where it will start to populate and search the data to see what it can pull up to be able to create something that appeals to that particular audience. And then you definitely are looking to see what kind of copy it comes up with. Copy is just what are the written words that come up, right? And this is the part where I tell people to be very careful, because I rather you use your original words, right? And then making sure you, if you are borrowing from something else, making sure you are giving credit where credit is due. So let's say that he starts this and he says, okay, write a 5-week campaign that can be used on social media to get individuals excited about my new program. The target is for corporate executives between the ages of 35 and 65, ready to get their finances in order. He also adds, include a strong call to action that gets the participants excited, and please use the following themes. So he inserts a number of themes, and he also inserts prior work that him and his team have done prior to. So this is just 5 weeks, but we'll assume that he did some pre-research to get all this data together to put inside of the AI engine. So let's see what happens. Because he's used AI, he now has this 5-week campaign. What I love about this is you clearly can see how his ideas are now crafted in a very organized fashion, in a 5-week fashion for that matter. And you clearly can see the CTAs at the very end. So he doesn't have CMF, because now every single thing he's posting leads and will lead that particular audience member to taking an action and eventually learning more about his product. Like if we look at the fact, one of the things we inserted in this case study is the fact that in order for him to build excitement, he's going to throw in a financial challenge, like a 5-day challenge. So you can look at week 2 and it's like, okay, here we are in day 1 of our 5-day challenge. And it's going into, a challenge that people will use, or is a marketing strategy to get people to opt into a given program. So you can see here that what the AI has populated for him is not only ideas that were taken from what he had in his prior research, but it's also adding CTAs, call to actions. And a lot of times when people are designing a funnel, they don't think about the overarching goal. So they understand, okay, we need to have, the onboarding emails. We need to have this is who I am emails, but there's a longer game in it, like I mentioned before. So what are his outcomes? He saved time and focused on having meetings with prospects. He closed 10 people in his 2K program over a 6-month period, and he saved the campaign as a template and can now reuse it and tweak it. He places his business opportunity investments into enhancing his coaching offerings. So you see how he's able to switch his focus on where he's spending his investment. And so additionally, by leveraging AI, he says, for my social media campaign, I was able to save close to 100 hours on planning and execution. The AI tools streamline the content creation process, allowing me to focus on engaging with my audience and refining my coaching program. Additionally, the cost-effective nature of AI-driven marketing helped me save approximately $10,000 on my campaign budget, which would have otherwise been spent on hiring external marketing consultants and content creators. So here we see that 100 hours are saved, 10K saved on ads budget, and now he's working more on his in-house productivity and spending more time doing what he loves. Now, again, I will pause that there, because I will say that there's so much to be said about this, right? And so we only have this hour, but I highly recommend, actually, let me share this before I take questions. I highly recommend a couple of things. Remember to think about your GPS. When we are driving someplace, we think about where we're going. And it's important to understand where you are in the stage of your business. And all of you are at different levels. So you might be into business for many years, and you might be just starting. All right. So you have awareness, about the awareness phase, where people are just getting used to who you are as a brand. Then you might be at the scale stage, where you are ready to grow revenue at another level. You've proven your value, and now you're trying to expand that. And so you have to understand what are my lead opt-ins, what's my valuation, and what will be my client journey, because that is going to definitely give you the ideas for how you actually begin to use the AI tools. And there are so many AI tools that you can use. Today, I'm just talking about generative AI, but I highly recommend that if you're interested, I want you to think about coming to my website, tolgspark.com. We have right on the landing page an assessment and you can complete it. And if you're interested in having what I call a Spark session where we can talk about your actual brand and your case study, let's go for it, because all of you have wonderful solutions to share, I'm sure. And the biggest game-changing way that you can use AI is to save the hours that you would normally spend on trying to organize all of this content. And I would highly recommend that you should be thinking campaign focus, community focus, engagement focus, because the more you do that, the more organic your growth will be. I grew my business without Facebook ads. I put in the time, absolutely, but I clearly understood that your digital story or your digital footprint can only be established with strong strategy, having a clear understanding of your core values of your business and your brand, and deciding that you're going to spend 3, 6, 9 months showcasing that strategy. And don't be afraid to tell your brand story. So I'm going to pause here. Like I said, there are so many avenues and ways we could have done this discussion. How many of you would like a part 2 to this discussion? Please put that in the chat box. We're talking about it. But I do think that at least at the base, you can look at that case study and see how this gentleman was able to stop spending on his budget and focus more on what was most important to him, which was offering the value of coaching to his constituents. Okay, awesome. So you guys are all saying a part 2 would be great. I think so too, because when I was putting this together, I was like, oh, there's so much we have to say about this, but I couldn't go deeper without at least starting at the base, right? So I'm going to pause here because we do have 10 minutes to have your questions in. Teresa, I don't know
Yeah,
if,
there are a couple questions if I could
okay.
read those out to you. Which AI platform generated the action plan that you
Yes.
presented?
So this was for Chat GBT. But there are so many that do, there are so many, it was hard to kind of choose between all of them. But I will say that once you guys subscribe, there will be an email with some of these resources that I've talked about today, including some homework assignments, because I love to give homework. So you can come back to SCORE and watch this video again, but you can also come to my website and actually get the homework sheets that we'll be sending out tomorrow. So just go ahead and subscribe. I've actually also put my Instagram feed right there inside of the chat box. The other thing I want you to invite you to is we're doing a 21-day challenge in July. So every single day, I'm going to be challenging you to think about your brand, to build your business, and it's going to be exciting. So just let me know if you want to come to the 21 days. Go ahead and subscribe, and I'll tell you more about it. Okay, Teresa, is there another question?
Yeah, did ChatGPT lay out was the output in that chart, or did the output have to be dissected and laid out into the chart?
So I will say that it really depends. Sometimes you can say to the AI tool of choice, put this in a calendar format. Sometimes you can say, put it listed. So it's really important on how you actually write it. But I would say at the base level, make sure that you are thinking about the prompts. And like I said, Bloom's taxonomy is great because you might decide you want to do market analysis, and you might say research competitors in this market, right? And so it's gonna pull out information regarding all of the ways you use your promptings. You can say design a landing page based upon my website. And so now this may not be with ChatGPT, this might be with another tool. So I just want you to know there are tons of tools out there, and I will have that on the resource handout, things that you can actually begin to use. But just know there are tons and tons of different AI tools, but you want to be clear about the prompt that you're actually using.
Yeah, do you know if it's true that Google search frowns on AI generated content when you're doing a Google search?
If it frowns on it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but what I will say is, um, you know, if you do your research well and you, let's say you're looking up anything, you can always do peer reviewed research on anything to see if the information you're pulling up is valid. But that's why I keep also premising my statement with saying, you know, searching on Google is not a substitution for, you know, the knowledge that we believe you inherently have, right? So you can do research and you can look. I always tell even my students at Northeastern, Google is a great place to begin, but obviously you have peer reviewed articles, you have foundational articles, there are other tools that you can use to, before you even tap into AI, to kind of populate what it is that you're actually looking for. So that's something I highly recommend. For example, sometimes people will say, oh, I need to write a report, so I'm going to just go on, and I'm like, no, you're not just going to go on ChatGPT and say, and you could do that, write a report about blah, blah, blah. But the danger in that, right? We don't want plagiarism. So we want your original work, your original content, your original information, and then you use the tool, but you're not using it as a substitution. So I think that is going to continuously be a conversation that academics and people in their different professionals will have, which is why I keep stressing, make sure that what you are doing is using it as a bridge or a conduit, not necessarily in substitution of what you know.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, though I see a lot of excitement around a part two, so we'll have to
Yes.
discuss that.
Yeah. So
So I just want, go ahead.
yes,
So,
I want to say, so I highly recommend that if I had to give homework, the first thing I suggest all of you do or think about, and it probably, it's a lot of information also, but I want you to recognize that uh, between AI and the algorithm shift with social media and all of that, yes, the average amount of liking on posts and engagement, it looks like, right, it's going down. But what I want you to know is that it's not so much that people are not interested in what you're posting. People want deeper engagement. So what they are really looking for now is more content that really appeals and tells them more about whatever their challenge is. Because now we can go on Instagram, we see that most people have Instagram, right? A lot of people in different generations are online now, so it feels saturated. But what I want to remind you about is to kind of slow down so that you can do more. Use AI, right? Play around with it. If I were you, one of the number one things you can start to do is just have fun with it. Go on it and just say, you know, okay, here's even something as little as a meeting agenda, right? And I'm here in DC, and there was an AI conference going on, and this woman said, well, right now I'm just using it internally to send out emails to my team, and it saves me time by, you know, streamlining what I want to say, right? So take your time with it, get used to it, and you will see that there are tons of apps and tools that you can use. And the other thing is, I want to point to the GPS piece. You know, I just have to point to the slide because we got 7 more minutes. You guys still with me? I want to point to that slide because I think it's crucial that you understand the GPS of where you really are at, because someone said it's overwhelming to think about, like, where do I begin to invest, or how do I spend that time? Well, it's important for you to know, am I at the awareness space? So maybe I'm using AI to craft a 3-month social media campaign, and here are the tools, I mean, here are the themes that I have for this campaign. And so it's going to populate that. You can ask it questions like, create a social media campaign for, and then literally put your type of business or type of industry, and I want it to be this long and this many days, and it's going to populate something. And it may be something you like, so you look at it and you say, okay, do I like that or do I not like that? You know, if you go back up here, this information here, right, I took this information once populated and put it in an organized fashion. But there are tools, again, that will actually organize it. There's tools that you can use now to create PowerPoint slide decks. So there's so much that you can do. I'm going to pause here for any last questions. You guys got my website, toldyouSpark.com, at Dr. D Inspire with a Y. And again, we have a 21-day challenge, but I would love to meet with some of you. You can find my Spark assessment right there on the website. And I'm going to just pause and make sure there aren't any last questions before we go. And it sounds like from everybody's vote, we need a part 2, Teresa.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I've covered all the questions. So I think at this point we can go ahead and thank everyone for coming and attending, and to watch for our newsletter and our website and our social media as well for part 2.
All right. Thank you,
From
everybody.
okay. Thanks everyone. Bye.